Can we just draft all of them? Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. No, seriously, I want to draft all of these guys. Grossi, and today we are going to look at 5 potential first-round prospects for the Green Bay Packers. In an earlier vid, I broke down the draft needs for the Packers. You can go check that out. Just the positions that I think the Packers are going to target in the 2024 NFL Draft. And today I'm going to provide you with 5 prospects. Some of their names have been popping up in mock drafts and talking about why I think the Packers might decide to go in this particular direction. So, starting off with number 5, we're going with the big lineman from Georgia. We have Amarius Mims. And when I say big guy from Georgia, I mean it. Guy is 6'8" and 340 pounds. Yeah, that's a big man. I saw him at the NFL Combine, and I just was in awe, because he looks like he could destroy me. Starting right tackle for the Bulldogs, unfortunately had an ankle injury that sidelined him for a couple of weeks, but this guy just seems like he has a super high ceiling. One, because he's 6'8" and 340 pounds, which definitely helps. But he was a really good right tackle for the Bulldogs, and again, just that ceiling is so high. Now, some potential cons, or maybe just some points of concern. He only has around 2 years of experience, so that is a little bit concerning, considering he's going to be now going into the pros and facing against some of the elite players in this game. There are some injury concerns as well. He even tweaked his right hamstring at the Combine, but overall, I think that this would be a great addition. I mentioned in that Packers draft needs video that the Packers definitely need to look at offensive line. I wouldn't say it's their number 1 priority, but considering Jordan Love played pretty darn well, I think it's a big priority just to keep him upright. Dave Bakhtiari, of course, leaving at left tackle. Rasheed Walker, I think, is going to fill in there nicely, but getting a guy who could learn and having a chance to learn behind that offensive line who, let's just be honest, Goody's really good at picking offensive linemen. I think this would be a great pick. Again, in the draft, you're basically picking based off of potential. Mims has a ton of it, and the Packers might see it too. Number 4, looking at the secondary here at corner, you got Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Wiggins is just a fascinating prospect to me. I've watched a bunch of his tape now, and I really like the way he plays. He absolutely was flying during the Combine, ran a 4.2 840. In 2022, he had double-digit pass breakups at 12. In 23, he had 9 and 2 interceptions. And at 6'1", he has the size to be a good corner, and I think that he really could be one of the best lockdown corners in this draft. I know that's been mentioned a couple times in some mock drafts, but watching Wiggins play, yeah, it could be awesome. And now for the Packers, why they might decide to go corner in the first round is because there's some uncertainty there. You don't know what's going on with Eric Stokes. Yes, they brought back Keyshawn Nixon, and I imagine that's going to be really helpful in the return game, even though he was playing corner last year as well. But just because there's some question marks here, and to be able to learn behind Jair Alexander, one of the best shutdown corners in the league.
Yeah, I'd say that'll do it. Yeah, I'd say that would do it. Yeah, that'll help a little.
He should be drafted around the end of the first round where the Packers are picking at 25. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers decide to shore up that secondary. Number 3, you got a linebacker, Peyton Wilson, a middle linebacker from NC State, 6'4", 233 pounds. And I would argue that this is probably the number 1 draft need for the Packers. They need another middle linebacker, especially shifting over to that 4-3 with Jeff Hafley. And Wilson, he checks a lot of boxes. Ran a 4.43. In 2019, he led his team with 69 tackles. In 2022, had over 100 tackles. Did it again in 23 with 138 tackles. One of the best linebackers in the entire nation. And why wouldn't you pick Wilson? Well, a couple of reasons. One, there's some injury concerns there. But 2, they drafted Quay Walker a couple years ago in the first round, an off-the-ball linebacker. And if there's data that shows anything, it's usually don't spend a high draft pick on an off-the-ball linebacker. However, when we're talking about needs, as I said, I think this is the biggest one for the Packers. And considering the list doesn't get much better as they get into day 2 and day 3, the Packers may decide, hey, let's go get this guy, check off a need, even though you really shouldn't be drafting for need. You should go best player available. Wilson, I still think, checks that box because he's a really damn good player. And besides the injury concerns, would definitely make me feel better about the middle of the field because right now they got Quay Walker and McDuffie, and I like McDuffie a lot. But shoring it up with Wilson, I think the middle of the field will be looking pretty damn good this upcoming season. Number 2, the guy that arguably I'm probably the most excited about. You got another offensive lineman. You got Graham Barton from Duke at 6'5", 313 pounds. And this guy, yeah, he just seems like the prototypical pick for the Green Bay Packers, especially for Goody. 2021, played 12 games at left tackle. 2022, 13 games. In 23, 9 games at left tackle. So again, the premium position here, playing left tackle. I don't think he's going to potentially stay there. He could move inside as a guard where Packers could definitely use some help on the interior offensive line, at least some depth there. Or he could potentially play center, depending on what happens with Josh Myers. And why Graham Barton just excites me is watching him play, he's just really damn good. Locking up some great defenders in college football. And honestly, this would just make me feel really, really good about the current state of the Packers offensive line, protecting Jordan Love, which is going to be a high priority. And as I said earlier, even with Mims, offensive line I don't think is the top priority, but I would not be surprised if they spent their first round pick on an offensive lineman or potentially even traded back and their first pick in the second round was an offensive lineman. I think Barton would be great for the team. He could play just about anywhere on the line. And yeah, can't go wrong with a player like that. And number one, the draft darling of all Packers mock drafts, you got Cooper DeJean. Had a chance to speak with him at the scouting combine, and his legend has only grown from there. Not because of me, I didn't do anything. But 6 foot, 202 pounds from Iowa. This guy can play safety, he could play corner, and he is super athletic. I mean, hell, while I'm recording this, he just had his pro day and just freaking blew it out of the water. Ran between a 4.43 and a 4.45 40-yard dash, and he's just an insane athlete. And considering safety is a need for the Packers, or like I mentioned before with Nate Wiggins, we do need a corner as well. This guy would fit the bill, whether you wanted to play him at corner or safety, or he can move him around. Jeff Hafley could have an athlete there that he can move around the field. It would be beautiful. But this not only fulfills a major need for the Packers, but Cooper DeJean seems to be the guy. There is potential that he's going to be chosen before the Packers can pick at 25. But if he's there, I would not be surprised if the Packers are strongly considering taking him. He had 75 tackles in 2022, 5 interceptions, 3 pick sixes. And besides his injury last year, which now he's ready for football activities, obviously he just did his pro day. Yeah, Cooper DeJean is super duper exciting. I can see why fans love him. And hell, I'd be super excited to have him on the team. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. What player do you think the Packers could target in the first round? Let me know. You guys find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media you see down below. A big shout and thank you to all the patrons and YouTube members for supporting this channel. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.